You are listening to Dragon Slayer Azeviche by Silvio Spati. The wind, like a gentle caress, touzles my ebony locks as my weary legs carry me with deliberate steps to the crest of the valley. Each footfall laden with the weight of the battle scrapes against the gravel path, and my sword, its blade still bearing the somber hue of draconite blood, is at last returned to its scabbard. Here I stand, both my trusty silver blade and I, wearied by the trials we've faced, yet compelled to behold the remnants of muddy peaks. How many valiant souls laid down their lives to stave off the relentless dragons if only for a day? May that single day's respite prove sufficient. My teary eyes brimming with burning black smoke, and my heart weeping at the sight of devastation all around. The valleys and the river that serpentines through the city hearken back to the day I first set foot here. I recall that fateful day when my life was forever altered, and I embarked on this journey of discovery. Ah, if only I could choose, I would willingly embark upon this fantastical quest once more, even with no knowledge of its inevitable conclusion, only to be reunited with all those held so dearly in my heart. You are the very essence of me, the limbs and organs that complete my existence, the very air that eludes these lungs now ablaze with the scent of smoldering flesh. My ardor for tomes, coupled with life's harsh trials, has forged the very essence of my being. The love I've discovered in this realm has anchored my resolve. It is why I persist in defending these lands. It is why I yearn to regale you with a tale, my tale. You are listening to Dragon Slayer Azeviche by Silvio Spati. Chapter 1, Jet Black. Part 1. Behind the rugged silhouette of the mountains, a sinuous plume of darkness stretched across the sky, a somber overture announcing the imminent arrival of the express train at Muddy Peak's time-worn station. In a world scarred by the relentless 100 Days' War against the formidable dragons and their enigmatic masters, the Draconites, this station remained a critical conduit to the main islands. On the platform, Marcus Abe, once a resolute militia member, trembled like a leaf in the relentless wind, awaiting the train's weighty cargo. "Here comes the train! It's here!" Jonas Greenberg exclaimed, his voice breaking the stillness of the moment. "Jonas, we can all see that," Marcus replied, his brows furrowed at Jonas's exuberance. "Everyone, step behind the yellow line, including you, Marcus," Jonas Greenberg, the station's elder inspector, called out, his whiskers twitching in urgency, his jacket impeccably adjusted. Despite his age, he clung tenaciously to his role as the station's guardian of order. "Newcomers come and go, but rules are rules," Jonas remarked to Marcus. As Marcus Abe stood on the platform, his gaze fixed on the jagged mountains, the approaching train's thunderous rumble reverberating through his chest, he struggled to contain a whirlwind of emotions. "What a remarkable day, Mr. Jonas," Marcus observed, his thoughts drifting to the letter he and his wife Rana had received from the government, an announcement that had breathed life into their long-held dream of adoption. Jonas met Marcus's gaze with an understanding smile, a friendship etched by years. "Can it be, Mr. Abbey, that I see in your face the dawn of our cherished dream?" "Yes, Mr. Jonas, it seems our dreams are on the verge of coming true. My heart races with anticipation," Marcus confessed, his voice tinged with excitement. "Indeed," Greenberg chuckled, a nostalgic gleam in his eye. "This village needs some young blood. After all, we're all getting a bit old, aren't we?" Jonas gestured toward Marcus with a knowing nod, as Marcus ran his fingers through his silvered hair, his cheeks flushed with humility. "You've got me there, my friend. We are inching closer to retirement," he admitted with a hearty laugh. The train's roar and the clatter of wheels grew louder with each passing moment. As the train pulled into the station, the conductor slammed on the brakes, and a loud screech and groan filled the air as the massive machine slowly came to a stop. Steam billowed, obscuring the surroundings. Figures emerged from the freight cars, their faces filled with anxiety as they searched for their loved ones. They disembarked with eyes darting in all directions, taking in their unfamiliar surroundings. "Is this the place? What a dump!" a boy exclaimed loudly to his mother. "Shush, show some respect to the locals. This is your new home, young man," the woman in uniform scolded, dragging the boy along. "Sorry," he mumbled. Marcus observed the impolite boy with relief, realizing he wasn't the one he had been expecting. "Mr. Jonas, today a young boy is coming to live in our home," Marcus said with a smile. "Rana is preparing a special dinner for the occasion." Jonah rolled his eyes, his patience tested by the constant influx of newcomers. "Of course, Mr. Abbey, and I know better than anyone about your wife's excitement for this event," Jonas replied, unconsciously twirling his long white whiskers. The train finally came to a halt on the platform, and the brakes silenced the massive metal beast on the tracks. "Mr. Abbey, where's your sign with the boy's name?" Jonas asked, patting Marcus on the shoulder. "How are we supposed to find the boy without a sign?" Jonas waved his hand in frustration. "Well, the truth is, I haven't made one yet," Marcus admitted. "Marcus, you're still the same, just like when you were a boy, always forgetting things," Jonas chided, staring at him. "As a matter of fact, we don't even know the boy's name," Marcus blushed, a sheepish smile crossing his lips. "My goodness, Marcus," Jonas sighed, rolling his eyes. "I have the list here on my clipboard, and it says Azeviche, a peculiar name for a boy. Do you still think I should retire, Marcus?" He chuckled, narrowing his eyes at Marcus. "My goodness, Marcus," Jonas sighed, rolling his eyes. "I have the list here on my clipboard, and it says Azeviche, a peculiar name for a boy. Do you still think I should retire, Marcus?" He chuckled, narrowing his eyes at Marcus. "Well, this place certainly needs someone to keep things in order," Marcus said. "To manage the mansion," Greenberg replied, a chuckle escaping him. "Yeah, I suppose so," Marcus agreed. The train continued down the tracks, moving away from the station. Most of the passengers on the platform had already left. Some of them were smiling with their arms full of packages, while others hugged their loved ones, tears rolling down their faces. A few grumpy folks, obviously not too excited about their new surroundings, blended in with the crowd. As the steam cleared, the train left Muddy Peaks behind. Marcus anxiously scanned the platform, his heart pounding with worry. Where could he be? "Everyone has already left the train," he muttered, his desperation growing. Suddenly, a woman with a suitcase tapped him on the back. "Excuse me, sir," she said kindly. "Over there, down the platform. Someone is waiting." "Thank you very much," Marcus replied gratefully. He followed her gesture and spotted a figure in the distance. Without a moment's hesitation, he rushed toward the person. "There he is, my boy!" Marcus exclaimed, relief flooding through him as he ran, huffing and puffing to catch his breath. However, as he reached the figure, his words of welcome faltered. Instead of a boy, he was greeted by a girl with large, bright green eyes and a smile as wide as the suitcase at her feet. Her long black hair cascaded down her shoulders, as dark as a moonless night, and she wore a white outfit paired with worn-out brown boots. "A girl?" Marcus stammered, his astonishment evident. "But what's happening here? Where's the boy?" he asked her, his confusion growing. "Where is he?" Marcus inquired, pointing towards the girl. "My name is Azeviche Jet, and if you are Mr. Marcus Abbey, I am your new daughter, sir," she replied, her smile undiminished. She pointed to a small placard that read Abbey. Marcus scrutinized Azeviche from head to toe, sweat beading on his forehead. It was inconceivable that, after all the effort to adopt a child, the government had made such a colossal mistake and sent the wrong person. "They never mentioned anything about a boy, if I recall correctly," Marcus muttered to himself, his attention focused on the bewildering situation, momentarily disregarding the girl. His hand propped up his chin as if carrying a heavy burden on his mind. He turned around, still in shock. The government hardly ever messes up, Marcus thought, not since the war. Ever since it all began, thousands have died defending a country that's no more. Orphaned children got sent to new foster homes, with new parents to work in the mines, extracting metal for weapons and vehicles, to work the fields, to ensure the colony's survival. Anyone who comes to Muddy Peaks isn't just a resident of a harsh land. They bear the responsibility of its upkeep. They're here to stand their ground and prevent another Draconite invasion, the dreadful civilization that halved Earth's population. They came from the southern lands to annihilate humanity. Marcus stood there lost in thought, while Azeviche grew increasingly disgusted with his rude behavior. Her face flushed with anger. She turned to him and shouted at the top of her lungs, desperately trying to get his attention. "Hey! This is no way to treat a lady! Don't think you can just leave me out here with my heavy suitcase," she said sternly, reaching into her pocket for a document sealed with official wax and bearing the coat of arms of the state of the Northern Islands. Her small hands moved swiftly. "Hey, this is no way to treat a lady. Don't think you can just leave me out here with my heavy suitcase," she said sternly, reaching into her pocket for a document sealed with official wax and bearing the coat of arms of the state of the Northern Islands. Her small hands moved swiftly. "The government seal," Marcus murmured. It became clear that this was no mistake at all. "Don't take me for a fool, sir. I may be an orphan, but I know my rights. I know they didn't send us to this corner of the world," she stammered. This forsaken place for a mere stroll." Her annoyance boiled over, and she yelled at him. Astonished by the sudden outburst of the young girl, Marcus finally seemed to snap out of his daze. The seemingly fragile 12-year-old was unwavering in her determination. She stared at Marcus with eyes blazing, as if on the brink of tears. She waved the paper in the air within her clenched fist, her head swirling with a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She had endured a grueling 25-day journey to reach this place. It was the farthest point in the country, at the fringes of what remained of civilization of old, on the border with the unknown realm of those who had decimated humanity. She had had enough for one day. "Here, over here, you. She continued to shake the paper in the air. "Take it and read it aloud. You won't be leaving here until you do, sir," she insisted. Poor Marcus. He never expected to encounter such a resolute spirit in his life. The seemingly delicate young girl was a brave soul, determined to find a new home. Azeviche brought back memories of his comrades from the army, from those days in the heat of battle during the 100 Days' War. Sharp-eyed and resilient, he thought, gazing at her. "No, there was no mistake here," Marcus affirmed. As he looked into Azeviche's eyes, he realized that this young soul had already weathered many trials. He could discern that determination in her eyes, something he had seen in the mirror years ago. She wasn't the first orphan to arrive in Muddy Peaks. Far from it. They arrived by the hundreds, and their numbers had swelled over the past year. These borders required fortification, eternal vigilance. The orphans, all survivors of the calamity known as the 100 Days' War, shared a common bond. As he looked into Azeviche's eyes, he realized that this young soul had already weathered many trials. He could discern that determination in her eyes, something he had seen in the mirror years ago. She wasn't the first orphan to arrive in Muddy Peaks. Far from it. They arrived by the hundreds, and their numbers had swelled over the past year. These borders required fortification, eternal vigilance. The orphans, all survivors of the calamity known as the 100 Days' War, shared a common bond. He accepted the sealed document from her hands, carefully breaking the wax seal to avoid damaging the paper. His hand trembled from the mixture of excitement and anxiety. Marcus was drenched in sweat, feeling deeply embarrassed about his initial treatment of the girl. In a husky voice, he began to read the text aloud. "The state of the Northern Islands hereby grants legal guardianship of the minor, Azeviche Jet, 12 years old at present, to Mr. Marcus Abbey and his wife, Mrs. Rana Abbey. We appreciate your dedication to serving the state and your commitment to prioritizing work, family, and country. Sincerely, the state of the Northern Islands, year 35 AD. 35 years after the first Draconite assault, the most devastating threat humanity has ever faced. The devastation and its impact on people's lives persist. Dispersed families now live under one state's rule. The nations, as they once existed, have long vanished. It was the only way to endure such a tragedy. A torrent of memories and emotions flooded Marcus's mind during a profound flashback, guiding him to a moment of realization. Life has its own plan. They've sent a fragile young girl to this challenging place. We'll safeguard her and help her find her strength, he reflected. We just have to accept what fate bestows upon us with an open heart. He gently folded the document and placed it inside his jacket pocket. "This is it," he said with an unexpected gesture, placing his hand awkwardly on her head. Marcus realized he needed to learn how to interact with children quickly. His throat felt parched, and his hands trembled. Yes, he exclaimed, catching his breath. Azeviche jet, my dear young lady. It appears that I am, indeed, your new father. Azeviche nervously bit her lower lip, tears cascading down her flushed cheeks. Her hands were clasped together, fingers interwoven, as if in a final, desperate plea. This is it, he said with an unexpected gesture, placing his hand awkwardly on her head. Marcus realized he needed to learn how to interact with children quickly. His throat felt parched, and his hands trembled. Yes, he exclaimed, catching his breath. Azeviche jet. My dear young lady, it appears that I am indeed your new father. Azeviche nervously bit her lower lip, tears cascading down her flushed cheeks. Her hands were clasped together, fingers interwoven as if in a final, desperate plea. Her mouth hung open, lips quivering. She managed to whisper, God, I'm so weary. I feel so exhausted. But before she could finish, she fainted. Marcus swiftly caught her, preventing her from falling. Here you are, little village of muddy peaks, stuck amidst the rocks of the mountains that points its fingers to the skies. Your red vegetation of permanent autumn, near the frontier of humanity and total bleakness, your rigid branches like spikes. Let me pass my thick fingers, benumbed by the fight. Through the hair of your desolation, they will make me feel alive. In your freezing dark rivers, my body wants to dive. I will run, I will fight, and I will cry. If you work the dusty red soil, the sustenance will arrive. Oluf, the dragon slayer.